Just went through like what an asset and what a liability was. I remember him very clearly saying an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. And I just remember that. That was like what I remember.
Light bulb go off, like that's how money and wealth is created. And like before, I had never even thought through that. How do you make money?
So, but going to campers, like flipping campers.
So he was traveling the country actually while this was all happening on his honeymoon. He was probably out in Arizona somewhere.
I was in Utah actually.
And so he had a camper, and then I was really big into camping, so I had a camper. And we're like, we don't have enough money to buy a house right now. No one will fund us. Let's just take our campers, we'll make them really nice and sell them. That's how we'll make money. So we did that a couple times, and we actually made enough money. We made $32,000. We bought our first house with that money.
How much did you buy the camper for? How much did you rehab it for?
You buy like $2,000. You buy a camper that has previous signs of moisture in it. So we'd get in there, make sure that there's no water coming in, paint it, make it look nice, maybe redo the floors, and then relist it on Craigslist as a nice new renovated
Their camper was so nice, it got on like a magazine. It was
on
a
magazine.
That must have been fun.
No, it was really fun. My wife's a great designer. So
He actually lived in my backyard for like 18 months in a camper.
Yeah, because you got to keep your expenses low when you're starting.
That's how committed we were to buying assets.
Okay, so so you flipped 2 campers, made 32 grand, and then what?
We went and found a house. It was off market. It was $32,000 for the entire house.
Okay.
It was a cheap house.
So it was a very nice house.
It was
very
beautiful
nice.
inside.
Really nice. Had 4 rooms.
So how did you find this off-market deal?
So I was just calling realtors, Zillow, Craigslist, tons of Craigslist, and I ended up finding this on Google Maps. I was just clicking down roads and found an old for sale by owner sign on the house. And I was able to zoom in and get that number.
Good for
called
you.
it, and then bought the house that way.
A little bit of research.
So what did you learn from flipping that house and making 2 grand?
Well, our goal was to buy 20 houses in the first year. And we were like, how are we going to buy 20 houses? We bought one, made $2,000. So we go into all the banks, and we're trying to figure out to get financing. We just graduated college, had no money, had no W-2s, had no like co-signers, anything like that. So we're like,
we were living off our wives' income at this point.
Exactly. And so we're like, how are we going to do this? Getting laughed out of all the banks and everything like that. And so went back to our mentor and we're like, hey, here's our problem. How do we fix it? And he was like, hey, well, I started out doing creative finance, and that was how I bought my first property. Zero down. He bought 8 condos, owner finance. And so that was like a light bulb inside us. We're like, awesome. You don't need credit. You don't need any of that. You don't even need down payment money. You just use creative financing.
We really like honed in on how do we find people who want to owner finance. And so what we did is we went to our tax maps, like our GIS tax maps that every town has for the most part. And we'd go on, we've identified people who have 5 or more properties. Those people are usually investors of some sort, and they're less emotionally attached to their houses. And we'd make a list of like 50 people or LLCs that own 5+ properties. We'd cold call every single one of them. And, and we just pitch right off the front, hey, you want to sell these properties? And if they're like, yeah, and then we'd be like, you want to do them owner finance?
Right. And so we kind of like, I'm sure you know, is when someone's been buying property for the last 20 years and depreciated them out and selling them, they're going to pay huge taxes and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, I don't really care. I'm just trying to, liquidate the asset and retire, and I don't know how to. If I have 40 houses, how in the world am I going to sell those things? It's a lot of work. And so what we were doing is coming in and saying, hey, no problem. We'll come in and do an owner finance deal.
We'll take them as is.
And the seller acts as the bank, and so they're able to collect interest, not pay, it's an installment sale, so they don't pay taxes up front. And so there's all these really great things for the sellers, and we were able to convey that and tell the seller about it. So if someone buys a house, let's say, a house depreciates over 27.5 years, right? And then they have to pay taxes on that whole gain. And so it's a huge tax bill for people who have bought the property and depreciated out and held it a long time. And so we're looking for that type of person that is, again, probably older and has multiple properties. So we identified a couple things, the autonomy of a owner finance seller is someone who owns multiple properties, someone who normally self-manages the properties, and then owns multiple properties in a rental area. And so we're just looking for that avatar of a person. So that's who we're looking for.
They can actually do it in an installment sale where they get paid out over time monthly. So it solves it's a win-win. They don't have to pay that upfront capital gain, and they get this reoccurring revenue. And if they default, you get the house back.
Oh, okay. So basically, it doesn't lessen their tax burden; it just spreads it over a longer period of time.
Yes. So instead of selling 5 homes, let's say, and getting all that capital gain and paying a big capital gain number to the government, then because if you're again as a investor, you might want that cash flow over a long period of time.
And so normally when you do seller financing, do you have to put money down, or is it pretty much, how does that work?
We've had both instances where you had to put money down, but what we always say is if you can't buy one house, you can buy 10 houses. So we did a deal where we actually bought 20 houses in one package. Well, I guess the way that we really did it is we bought those 20 houses and we said, we're going to give you $100,000 down payment, but we want the $100,000 collateralized by only these 3 houses. And then what we did is we just sold those 3. We got hard money for the deal, the $100,000. Then we sold off those 3 houses right away, and we had 17 houses left. And so that's how we just started growing. Is every time that we needed something, we would try to get them in-house. So we built a one-stop shop. We have in-house property management, in-house maintenance, in-house construction company, and it was just a very slow, organic growth.
And I love the best part is that the properties pay for these people.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's
100%
actually what the people need to remember.
Yeah.
It is profit, but it's not, because you give it to a property manager and they're going to do it anyway.
Right.
So, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I think when you're building your business, you got to identify what your goals are with the business and what you're doing in real estate. You need to know why you're doing it. If you're trying to, create $2,000 a month so you can live in a camper and travel the country, that's one thing. Or if you're trying to grow a large business like you need to know that early on so you're making the actionable steps. And so we played the 5-year game, we call it.
5-year plan.
5-year plan. But you look out and let yourself grow over time instead of trying to do it in the first 3 months you start business. Normally the first 3 months you're just trying to figure out who's in the world of real estate, and you're trying to learn and do all that thing, but give yourself time to do it. And that, I think, allows you to scale, because you're not trying to focus, I need $1,000 a month in cash flow. You're like, hey, I just need more assets that are cash flowing.
Yeah.
That's it.
What's your strategy moving forward as you're managing tax?
Yeah, so there's a couple pieces of that. One thing we identified was that if you sell property, you get rich. But if you hold property, you get wealthy. So our goal is to hold as many properties as possible. That's our goal. And then on the tax side is that right now, we're just in that growth phase for us. We're able to take bonus depreciation up front. And so that's kind of the play we've been running. And we haven't sold a ton of property this year. We've been doing our best to manage, we're watching, making sure that our debts, all of our entities are debt servicing for the bank side of things. So they'll continue lending us money, because that's really important now, is to manage that relationship. But then obviously, and then we're trying not to sell too much unless it just doesn't make sense. The asset doesn't make sense for our portfolio.
And one of the big reasons we're able to hold so much now is we reinvested our money into an acquisitions team, and we buy all off market, and we get some stellar deals.
Nice.